I am recording a hecahands deck profile that I got, apologize. I got first with the deck, and I honestly really like how it worked. And I'm pretty sure Godos was actually very good today. Just being able to go, oh, you added a card? Okay, I'll summon Godos, and then I will now take this monster from your graveyard that you needed. And I just really like that. And then Xeno also did a lot today. But let's see, I ended up winning against Crystron K9. Mainly because my opponent, I won game one, but my opponent gave me the match because we only had like 2.5 minutes left. And then game two, I won against Branded Dracotail. Just game one, Xeno stole, what was it? Mirror Jade the Iceblade Dragon, Albion the Sanctifier Dragon, and then Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. And then game two, he activated, what was it? The Dracotail version of Branded Fusion. I ash it, and then he sets one, sets a monster face down, and passes. And then I just proceed to start doing hecahands combo, and after he uses a Solemn Strike, and then just gives up because he knows that he won't be able to have enough life points afterwards. And then game three, I ended up having a double loss against Salamangreat, just because I didn't have another level 7 hecahands in my deck, but if I did, I would have been able to make a Big Eye steal one of their monsters. Xeno can then attack over, or would have been able to then start running things over, and then I would have been able to attack for game. But starting off with the monsters, I play the Honorary hecahands monster, which is 3 copies of Nightmare Apprentice. Nightmare Apprentice has the effect that when summoned, you can add an illusion monster from your deck to your hand. It can summon itself from your hand by discarding a card from your hand. And then all of the illusion monsters share the effect that that when they battle, neither monster can be destroyed by battle, or by that battle, I should say. And then next, I play 3 copies of hecahands Ibtel. Hecahands Ibtel has the effect that you can reveal it in your hand, shuffle it into the deck, and then summon a hecahands monster from your deck, except for another copy of itself. And then if this card is sent from, you special summon in defense position. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a hecahands monster in your graveyard, except for another copy of Ibtel, and special summon it. And then I play 3 copies of hecahands Yodel. Yodel does the same thing as Ibtel, except for spells and traps. And then when it's sent to the graveyard, you can then target a hecahand spell or trap in your graveyard and set it to your field. Then I play 1 copy of hecahands Brius and 2 copies of hecahands Gygus. All of the dark hecahands monsters share the effect that if your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except by drawing it and during the damage step, or except by drawing it for the draw phase or during damage step, then they can activate their effects to special summon themselves. And then Brius isn't as good as the other two, just being able to look at a random card in your opponent's hand and be able to see if it's a monster, and if it is, you can summon it to your field. Gygus then lets you look at execute the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, and if one's a monster, you can summon it, and then shuffle the remaining cards back into the deck. But I did like Brius just because I used its effect in my third match. It didn't hit a monster, but it did reveal an infinite impermanence, so I was able to play around an imperm. Mainly because I baited it out with the Nightmare Apprentice, because then I was able to use the hidden hecahands to do what I was going to do anyway. And then I play 3 copies of hecahands Godos. One thing I will say is that while I was playing, instead of 3 Godos, I was playing 2 Godos and 1 kashtira Rise Heart. But Rise Heart didn't really do anything by itself, so I replaced it with a 3rd copy of Godos because that would have managed to win me the match. But Godos can summon itself when your opponent adds a card to the hand. But during your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, that's the other thing with Gygus and Breus, is that during your turn. But Godos is during your opponent's main phase, quick effect. You can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but banish it when it leaves the field. Which I was trying to do that when my opponent had activated the effect of Canine Lupus to summon itself. But then I chained to this, and my opponent had a Ghost Bell, so they were able to stop Godos. But that's it for the kashtira monsters for now, and I believe for me it'd be May 8th. Then there'll be 3 new hecahands cards where I'll probably just add 2 of the fusion, 1 or 2 of the trap, and 3 of the monster that are being released in that set. Before the kashtira monsters, I play 3 copies of kashtira Fenrir. Fenrir has the effect that if you control no monsters, you can special summon Fenrir from your hand. And then once per turn, Fenrir will let you add a kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. And then lastly, if Fenrir attacks or your opponent activates a monster effect, then you can activate Fenrir's effect to be able to target 1 monster your opponent controls and banish it face down. Next, I play 3 copies of kashtira Unicorn. Unicorn does the same thing as Fenrir, except it adds a kashtira spell, and then instead of targeting a monster your opponent controls to banish face down, it lets you look at your opponent's extra deck and banish a card from it face down. And then for the hand traps, I play 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird just to stop combo decks or make it so that my opponent doesn't get to draw as much for multiple armies. As I noticed that with this deck, Perulia honestly hurts me more than Fuwalos does. So I think I only summoned like once or twice for Fuwalos. And then I also play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This is mainly just to say no to the Molcharmies, but it can just be used to negate anything that would add a card from deck to hand, summon from deck, or send from deck to grave. But that is it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells. Well, spells, I play 2 copies of Hecahands Tartarus. Tartarus has 2 effects, but I really only ever used the second effect, which is the effect of Fusion Summon. Which it lets you Fusion Summon a Hecahands Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the materials from your from your field or graveyard. If you use face-up monsters you control that are owned by your opponent, you can treat them as Hecahands monsters. So if you've stolen 3 of your opponent's monsters and you have this, you can just banish those 3 stolen monsters and summon Hecahands Xeno, for example. And next, I play 3 copies of Kashtira Birth. Kashtira Birth is the main reason I wanted to try the Kashtira version of this deck. Just because it makes so you can normal summon level 7 monsters without tribute. So you can normal summon Gygus, Breus, or Godos if needed. But then it also has the effect that during your main phase, you can special summon 1 of your non-Xyz Kashtira monsters that's banished or in your graveyard. If an opponent activates a spell card or the effect of a spell card, and you control a Kashtira monster, you can then target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. And you can only use that effect of birth once per turn. My bad, you can only use each effect of birth once per turn. Next, I play 3 copies of the Hidden Hecahands. The Hidden Hecahands has the effect that when you activate it, you can send 1 other card you control or in your hand. I believe it's me in your hand. Let's see. No, you send 1 other card you control to the graveyard to then be able to add a Hecahands monster from your deck to your hand. And then if you did send another card, so you can just activate this, add a Hecahands monster, and that's it. But if you sent another card when you activate this card, then you can also take a Hecahands spell or trap from your deck and set it to your field. And then lastly for the spells, I play 3 copies of Pressure Planet Wraithsoth. Wraithsoth has the effect that when it's activated, you can add a kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. All of your monsters gain 100 attack for for each different attribute on the field. And then also has the effect that, well, the last effect doesn't really matter because I'm not playing Shingra Era in this deck. Mainly because I don't have a Shingra Era, surprisingly. But I feel like that was okay. For the traps, I play 2 copies of Ibal hecahands and 2 copies of Yadal hecahands. You would probably easily cut out 2 of these, or 1 each of the trap. But I honestly like them at 2. But Ibal, both of these, in order to activate them, you have to have a hecahands monster. But Ibal will make it so that when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can negate the effect, destroy it, and then if you destroy it, you can then special summon it to your field. And then Yodal does the same thing, but with spells and traps. You negate, destroy, and then if you destroy it, you can set it to your field. Which I will admit, one thing I did against Salamangreat, try to slow them down a bit, was use this on the Sanctuary, which did slow them down a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked. But that's it for the main deck. I believe the main deck is 42 cards, so with this version I could just take out a Yodal and Ibal and have a 40-card deck. For the extra deck, I play 1 copy of IP Masquerada. This card just lets you link summon using monsters you control, including itself, during your opponent's main phase as a quick effect. And then a link monster that's link summoned using this as material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then next, I play 1 copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight has the effect that if it's link summoned using a Fusion Synchro Exeter link monster, you can target 1 card on the field or in the graveyard and banish it. And then if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can chain Little Knight's effect, targeting 2 monsters on the field, with at least one being one you control. Banish both until the end of the turn. And then one other thing I forgot to mention is if you use SP's effect to banish from field or grave, you cannot attack directly that turn. And then next, I play 3 copies of Hecahands Jalza. Hecahands Jalza, I feel like is really good in this deck, as you either have to fusion summon it by using a Hecahands monster plus an illusion monster, or by tributing a Hecahands monster you control and a monster you control that is owned by your opponent. Once per turn, you can activate Jalza's effect, being able to add a Hecahands card from your deck to your hand. And I can't remember if it does anything but more than that. Okay, no, let's add a Hecahands card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That's what it is. Like I said, I do like Jalza just because it's able to be just recycle your recycle your resources from your graveyard, but you can also grab things you need from your deck. Then next, I play 2 copies of Hecahands Xeno. Xeno, I will admit, is not as good as I originally thought, because when I tried to memorize this effect, for some reason I thought if it leaves the field because of an opponent's card, then you get to activate its destruction effect, which lets you just take control of as many monsters your opponent controls as you want. But that is how its destruction effect works. It's just, it has to be destroyed by card effect. So if it's tributed by your opponent, then it doesn't get to do anything. But I do like its ability of being able to, during the main phase as a quick effect, look at your opponent's extra deck, take 2 cards out of the extra deck, look at them, and special summon 1 to your field. And then I am fairly certain about it, but if I'm wrong, then please comment below and let me know I'm wrong. There were a couple times where I would summon this, but I had a monster in the extra monster zone, and it revealed 2 links. So because I had a monster in the extra monster zone, and I didn't have co-links all the way up going to the other extra monster zone, I couldn't summon that link monster. So I'm fairly certain because I had I already had a monster in the extra monsters, and I couldn't summon the link monster, but if you know whether or not I could or couldn't, please comment down below. I would like to know if I had actually cheated my opponent of that. But anyway, moving on, I play one copy of Dampier Vampire Sheridan. I love this card in the deck just because if you have two of your opponent's monsters that have a level, you can use them as level 6s for summoning this monster, where you can activate its effect to then detach material, target a monster your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard, and then if a monster was sent to your opponent's graveyard, you can activate Sheridan's effect, detaching a material to then target that sent monster and special summon it to your field. On a similar note, I also play the one copy of the Zombie Vampire. The Zombie Vampire has the same summoning condition as Sheridan, where if you have two of your opponent's monsters, you can treat them as level 8 to start summoning. And then the Zombie Vampire can detach a material to make it so that both players send the top 4 cards of the deck to the graveyard. And then of those 8 cards that were sent, that you get to choose one monster from those 8 to summon. Then I play one copy of Krazeb's The Gowled Glutton. I honestly didn't make this card, but I do like that I at least had access to it. Where it gains 700 attack for each material that's attached to it once per chain. If a normal or quick play spell is activated, then as a quick effect, you can attach that card to this card on the field. Oh no, my brain's not comprehending how the effect works for some reason. Otherwise, you can attach that card on the field to this face-up card, and if you do, this card is unaffected by that activated card. And then during the end phase, you can set a spell card that is attached to this card. But I always like it because if you're something like Raigeki, you can activate its effect to take the Raigeki as material, and then it can't be destroyed by the Raigeki. But I do also like the effect that you can have, or during the end phase, you can have Kurzaz just be able to just take a spell card that has material and place it on your spell and trap zone. And then I probably went a little too heavy with the Yoink in this deck, but I play 3 copies of number 11 Big Eye. Big Eye has the effect where you can detach the material, target a monster your opponent controls, and take control of it. However, Big Eye cannot attack the turn you use this effect. That's it. But I really like Big Eye just because it's able to steal your opponent's monsters and be able to further your plays. And in the third game of the final round, I actually would have won if I had the third Godos in the deck, because then Big Eye would have been able to make a Big Eye, steal a thing, start swinging over monsters, and it would have been fine. Then I play one copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Dracossack, I mean. Dracossack is able to summon 2 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens by using 1 material, and then I contribute one of those tokens. I don't know if that effect is once per turn. Okay, yeah, it is. Once per turn, you contribute a token, target card on the field, and destroy that target. However, Dracossack cannot attack. What was it? Cannot attack during a turn you activate this effect. That's what it is. Another card I was thinking about playing in this deck just for some burn damage was Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Just being able to not be destroyed by card effects, and then every time your opponent activates a monster effect, when it resolves, they take 500 burn. And then lastly, I play the one copy of Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis. As you can use any monster you control, as long as it's the monster you control with the highest attack, to summon this card, as long as your opponent has summoned, 2 or more times from the extra deck in either that turn or the previous turn. Let's see. You're going to turn the turn after your opponent special summon 2 or more monsters from the extra deck. Okay, and then while it's on the field, It negates. It was either negates or neither player can activate. Okay, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack. And once per turn, you can detach a material, target a monster on the field, return it to the hand. Or my bad, it doesn't target. Once per turn, you detach a material from it to then return one monster on the field to the hand. So it's a non-targeting removal card. Well, the main thing I would change is either take out Draco's Sack for Flare Metal or take out one of the 3 big guys for a Flare Metal. But I definitely want to add Flare Metal to the extra deck. And I don't do this one often, but I feel like because I got first, I will go ahead and do the side deck. For the side deck, I play 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, just get rid of back row. 1 copy of Snatch Steel and 1 copy of Change of Heart, just to be able to take opponent's monsters and be able to further your own plays. Because I figured rather than board breakers, I could play cards like these to then be able to eat up negates. Which actually worked, because then I played the card that literally no one was expecting, being 3 copies of Mind Control. As Mind Control lets you target a monster your opponent controls, take control of it. However, that monster cannot attack, nor can it be tributed, which one of the things I actually did with this was I stole a monster and then sent that monster with the hidden hecahands. Because it sends another card and doesn't tribute. And then I also play 3 copies of Lightning Storm, either to bait out negates or destroy attack push monsters or the entire back row. 3 copies of Regeki. Again, it's just to bait out negates or destroy the monsters. And then the only card that's actually in here for going first is 3 copies of the Black Goat Laughs. Mm-hmm. The Black Goat Laughs has 2 effects. You can only use one of the 2 per turn, and only once that turn. Where you can declare a monster card name, so that turn neither player can special summon the declared monster, nor can they activate its effects. Usually I use this, in Draco Tail, I would use this thing called Arthalion. And then if this card's in the graveyard, you can banish it, declare a monster card name, and then this turn neither player can activate the effects of monsters on the field with that original name. And you only use 1 Black Goat Laughs effect per turn. But that is it for my Kashtira hecahands deck profile. If you have any ideas of what I can do to improve the deck, and ideas for decks I can see being made in the future, I am currently working on 3 to 4 different other versions of this, which are Horus, Azamina, Runic, Relinquished, and I'll probably end up having one of my friends help me for if anyone wants to see a Killer Tune deck profile. But like I said, if you want have any ideas for improvements, decks like to see made in the future, or decks like to see face each other, feel free to comment down below. I always read the comments and try the ideas. And I do know that one person that asked for a Genesis Rose Dragon deck profile, which I am working on that. I'm just trying to figure out the points for cards I want to use. But if you're still watching, thank you for watching, and I always read the comments.